Hello and welcome to the Pawn Pro podcast. Today I have with me Vince LaProva from Patriot Gun and Pawn in Florida. Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Always happy to help you guys.
This is awesome. For the crowd, who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get into the industry?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, my name's Vince LaProva. I'm here in Seminole, Florida. We're west central Florida, just south of Clearwater, Pinellas County. You probably saw us on the news recently, not us in particular, but we had two hurricanes roll through here within about a week of each other, which was
Yeah.
good times. But it's the price we
You
pay for
guys
some.
roll with the punches. Yeah.
Well, what else are you gonna do? You can roll with
Yes.
them or don't. Um, so that's kind of who I am. The way I got started in this industry
Yeah.
is Cash America came to Florida in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was maybe the second round of hires that they did in the state of Florida. So maybe like the fourth or fifth guy that they hired. They brought in a lot of their own
Mm-hmm.
guys to manage stores. And as a result of that, there was opportunity to move up pretty quick. If you were, willing to, work hard and pay attention and learn the business. So I was able to become a store manager at about 9 months, which was, good times. I was
Yes.
with Cash America for a couple years. And then, like all good things, they come to an end.
Yep.
We all understand how that happens. And the gentleman who was my original area manager, Jeff Ravel, was one of the guys who was on board with John Thedford when they started Value Pawn. So I think I was employee number 14
Yep.
with Value Pawn, and I opened the third store in the company for them, which was their St. Petersburg store. And I was with them for several years. After being a store manager, I was an area manager, then a regional manager. And then I moved into the home office with purchasing and training. And
I
again,
didn't
like,
know that.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, good time. So I've kind of seen the ups and downs of different things. And, like with Cash America, as an example, I was the beta store for their first foray into computers, which was, they called it Tops.
Tops.
And you want to talk about a disaster.
Yeah.
It couldn't balance cash drawers. I mean, it couldn't do anything. I literally had 4 or 5 guys from the IT department living in my store.
Yeah.
I think there might have been some pressure from stockholders where they had said they were going to roll this software out at a certain time, so it was going to get put in a store come hell or high water.
And it
And
was yours.
lucky me, I was the store. And don't get me wrong, the IT guys were wonderful, but
Yeah.
it's so hard to run a store with all these guys running
Totally.
around, and like I said, you couldn't even balance a cash drawer. I mean, you couldn't do anything with it. It was,
And then Tops was around for like forever.
yeah,
That was just sunset in
yeah. It's
in the last handful of years.
kind of how things work out, right?
What'd you learn from your time working at Cash America?
Um, I think more than anything that I learned at Cash America was things are always changing. You got to learn to roll with the punches. You gotta, you just gotta adapt. If you can't adapt in this industry, holy cow, because it is moving so quickly.
Yeah.
Not only through the technology side, things that you guys do or other vendors do with technology, but just the business in general. When I started in this business 1,000 years ago, it feels like, probably 75% of your loan balance was in your safe. It was
Right.
gold. Not anymore. The great gold purchase of the early 2000s wiped out a lot of that gold on the street, and all of a sudden, 25 or 30% of your loan balance
Yep.
was in the safe. So if you didn't learn to do things differently, you were in trouble. And we see that a lot with a lot of the old school pawnbrokers saying, well, if I can't double or triple my money, I'm out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore.
So you have to adapt and figure out how to do it. So I learned a lot from Cash America, don't grow too fast.
Yeah.
Same lesson with Value Pawn, by the way. They grew incredibly fast.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot. It was an interesting baptism by fire because, at 9 months, you're managing a store with no computers. So, you couldn't look things up for product knowledge. You either knew it or
Right.
didn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was a lot of pressure there with that kind of stuff. But it was exciting and good times.
Describe your leadership style in your store today.
That's hard because I've changed a lot, and I
Hmm.
don't always see the things that have changed because I'm too close to it.
Yeah.
You know, my wife will tell you that I'm much more laid back than I used to be. I
Hmm.
don't feel like I am, but she'll tell you that. But I try to be a little bit more laid back. I am.
Yep.
I've always been uh, very driven by numbers, very driven by success. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not interested in hearing the excuses. I just want to get it done and let's get it done right. If it doesn't work, that's another story.
Right.
But I don't want to hear why we couldn't execute. Now,
Right.
if we execute and fail, that's executing and failing. But if
Yeah.
we fail to execute,
Right.
that's an issue for me. Um, but I'm definitely a lot different than that. It's especially with my wife around it. It's certainly helped having her around
Yeah.
for the past 7 or 8 years because she'll give me feedback that I'll listen to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
oftentimes before when you're the only person in charge, and there's not someone to give you what you feel like is quality feedback, it's difficult.
Hmm.
And you just say, hey, here's what
Totally.
I think, and here's what we're going to do. Whereas my wife would not hesitate to say, hey, Vince, listen, maybe we need to rethink this, or let's look at this a different way. And, she's right.
Yeah.
I know that you did a podcast with my wife recently, and I have to apologize that you're doing one with me now because she's by far the star of the family. You know,
She is a star. I love Suzanne
I
so
was
much.
I joked multiple times today that maybe I should just call Tally and tell her I've got a cold, or find a way to bail on this thing so I don't embarrass myself trying to follow my wife.
No, it's awesome. I can see Suzanne being really good at giving feedback, and the hardest part about feedback is usually receiving it. And even as like a manager or a leader, getting feedback is sometimes hard because you get so defensive. But I think the message of, failing to execute is different than executing and failing. And from an operation standpoint, probably with a lot of experience, um, yeah, the failure to execute thing is frustrating, and there's not really much time. You there's not really much time to like recover from those things. Like you gotta go fast, you gotta execute, and you have to fail fast. Because if you don't, then you're never gonna reach a result. And then you can't fail on the same thing more than once. That's like one thing at Bravo that's like happy to fail on one thing one time, but like we can't fail on the same thing multiple times and not be constantly learning and evolving from those situations. But that is like the only way to get better is to actually fail. So
Oh,
fail
absolutely.
fast,
The
fail forward.
I saw I read a statement recently, and I think it might have like been a boxer or someone who said it. I can't even remember, but they said something about they weren't lucky. They failed more times than you attempted.
Yeah,
And they just talked about how often they had to keep working and working and working, and it's not the same failure, but I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know who I heard it from many years ago, but it's if you're not failing, you're not trying
right.
because there's going to be failures.
Yeah,
Nobody's perfect. We all can't execute at 100%. God, I wish we could. I'd be retired by now.
totally.
But it is what we do. We work hard and we learn, and if we make a mistake, hopefully we learn from it. And
Totally.
that's the value of the mistake. But if you don't learn from it, well, then you're just doomed to keep doing the same things over
Yeah.
and over again.
Yeah, totally. What are your biggest challenges right now facing your business, and how are you working to overcome those?
So our biggest challenges here um, are definitely just continuing to grow the loan side of our
Mm-hmm.
business. It's
Mm-hmm.
ever evolving. I know that one of the things that my wife talked about is how we've kind of evolved into mainly just jewelry and firearms, and we did that by design. Know what you're good at. And I also say oftentimes to people that are on my staff, know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think she might have used the same example, so I apologize if it's the same one. But I don't know musical stuff.
Right.
I just don't. I don't have a desire to learn it.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. Takes up a lot of space. I,
Yeah.
I'm just no thank you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I pass on stuff, and there's a competitor right down the road, and I recommend people go to him all the time because he's a musician.
Yeah.
He's the guy that can help them if anybody can. So we're always trying to grow our loan balance, which is, like I said, it's certainly a challenge. It's ever evolving. The landscape with jewelry right now is pretty interesting, with some highs and lows, with peaks with gold,
Yeah.
and what happens. And I don't know what it's like in other states as far as the laws go. One of our frustrations here is, if you're an estate jeweler, you only have to hold gold for 15 days, and you can sell it if you buy it from the public. Whereas if you're a pawn shop, you have to hold it for 30 days.
Right.
So I've got double the amount of days of risk that they do, which can make it a little bit more challenging to be competitive.
Yeah.
But we do it, but it slices my margin a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Any new categories besides guns and gold that you've started taking in, or that you've tried, maybe with success, without success? Any new?
No, not really. I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you. We started like everybody else. We took everything.
Yeah.
When we opened the doors, you're just glad somebody's walking through the door. And we took everything. When my loan balance got to like $25,000, my back room was full, and I was like, "Oh, I am in trouble."
Yeah.
I don't have near enough space.
Yeah.
Because I had kind of grown up in the pawn industry when this huge percentage, 60, 70, 80% of your loan balance was in your safe.
Right. And
And-
then you
and-
had the huge TVs, and everything else was huge.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But over time, we got more and more firearms, and we got more and more gold, and we were able to, the nicer stuff you get in your store, the nicer stuff you get coming in on loan.
Yeah.
I mean, we all
Totally.
kind of know how that goes, and it's about investing in yourself and changing and kind of growing to where you want to go.
Yeah.
We invested more and more money in firearms and more money in jewelry. And, when we started this store, I think my inventory was $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
It was my money. It was all the money in the world, and I had $40,000 in inventory. And today we're at almost $500,000.
Yeah.
And we're 12 years old, but if you don't do that, if you don't invest back into your business and grow,
Totally.
and
Yeah.
get this jewelry department going, well, then the jewelry won't come through the door. And now, my jewelry is about 50% of my loan balance, which is nice. I'd love it to be
Yeah.
80,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just not. But, it's still good.
I think that's a good message, like being really intentional about the business that you want to be. Like, not every pawn shop has to look the same. Not every pawn shop has to have the same mix of jewelry and guns and instruments and tools. There's a lot of stores that are super niche, and there's a lot of stores that do everything, and they do it pretty well. But it's just being intentional about the store that you're trying to create,
Yeah.
and then sticking to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I'm a big believer. One of the things that with Value Pawn, we grew so quickly, and we tried to cookie cutter everything. Whereas every store had this TV wall, and they had this much
Yeah.
of this, and they had this much of that. And definitely one of the things that I learned through that was your store is going to have a personality based on where it's located. We're very much community businesses, right? We're
Yeah.
1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile. Those are the three
Yeah.
circles that we all worry about.
Yep.
Well, a lot of times that circle will determine where you should go with your store.
Right.
And you have to pay attention to that. If you're a store that is firearm centric and you're not catering to that, I mean, you're just hurting yourself. You're holding yourself back. One of the things that we talked about a lot when we opened this store, and my wife had never been in retail like this, and I think her expectation was when we opened the store, it'd be like a 7-Eleven, people in every second of the day.
Right.
And it's not like that.
Right.
When we first opened, my kids could watch a whole movie between customers.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
wow. We used to
Yeah.
watch people turn around and go, oh, I hope they're turning in here.
Yeah.
But you're going to find out what you are based on your community, and you have to kind of embrace that. But you have to be able to identify what it is. Here, it's jewelry and firearms. But I
think that's really awesome. Like the personality of your store is largely dictated by obviously location. It seems so obvious, but not necessarily, I don't think, because if you have an idea of what you want to be and you're not willing to adapt and pivot around your actual community that you're in, then you're going to be stuck in a store that has no walk-in traffic.
what's that saying? adapt or die, right?
Yeah. Adapt or die.
I
Yeah,
mean, you got to
totally.
figure it out, or
So you've
figure it
been
out.
in the industry for a super long time. Are there any like amazing success stories or something particularly memorable kind of experience that you've had with a customer or with philanthropy or something really amazing about being in this industry?
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's so many of those type stories. We've had everything from, we had a young lady in our store, and she was having a hard time, and we didn't know why she was having a hard time, but you could tell she was having a hard time, and something about her just reached out to my wife, and just out of the blue, my wife said, "Here, listen, I want to give you this ring that you were looking at. I know you like it, and maybe you can't have it today, but I want you to have it." And what happened is the lady started crying. She had been diagnosed with cancer that day, and it just made her day. So you get to do things like that without meaning to. I mean, you want to do something nice,
Yeah.
but no idea what they're doing. But I am going to share a story with you, and I'm going to be really, really upset if I cry because it touches
I
my
cry
heart.
on this thing all the time at stories like this.
It touches my heart all the time, and it's one of those things that sometimes people do things that aren't the nicest to you, but things work out. And there was a time, it was towards the end of my career with Value Pawn, and one of the things that they did every Christmas is we would do Secret Santa for this children's house that had children who were taken from their parents. Like they were in, just bad situation. The parents didn't even know where these children were. They don't even know. And there was a guy, I can't remember his last name to save my life, so I feel bad, but his name was Jack. He was an older guy. And he did Santa Claus the first and maybe the second year that we did it. So he was the Santa that went out there, and they had these gifts, and they call the child's name, and we give the child the gift, and it's very touching, and it's great for these kids to have a Christmas, and
Yeah,
most of them are
totally.
very young. So towards the end of my career, Value Pawn, like the end of most careers, you're not always on the best terms with people that you work with. Things are getting a little dicey, and things were a little dicey between me and John Thetford. We weren't seeing quite eye to eye. We weren't as close as we once were. But it kind of is what it is. Well, we're on the way there, and he says, hey, Vince, Jack can't do Santa Claus, and I need someone to do Santa Claus. Can you do it? And I said, sure, I'm happy to do it. Now, knowing John the way I knew John back then, and I'm not saying he's like this now, is he thought it was funny because I was chubby to have me do Santa Claus. But okay, I don't care. I'm
Right.
gonna do it for the kids.
Right.
Right? So I throw the Santa Claus thing on, and I go in this room. See, it's starting to bother me now. It's starting to get to me. So I go in this room, and they hand me the gift, and I say, Lisa, and little Lisa comes up and gets her gift. And you do this with all these little kids. And most of the kids are coming up are 8, 9, 10 years old. So they hand me the gift, and I call this little girl's name, and she's like 4. It's starting to bother me again. She's like 4. And she comes up, and I hand her the gift, and she says, I love you, Santa. See it?
Yeah.
So here I am at this place in my career where it's not the best. It's a little rocky. Somebody thought it would be funny to put me in the role,
Right.
maybe as a punishment or their way of whatever. But here I am having this wonderful experience of getting to do this with this little girl, and here I am talking about it 25 years later.
Totally.
So this great thing happened from it, and then it's all okay. It's all water under the bridge, and it still chokes me up to this day.
Yeah. Those moments, I mean, growing up, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the most memorable moments for me growing up in the business were also tied to philanthropy, often with kids and often with, my dad doing similar kinds of events with kids. And as a kid, going to those things, made such an impact. And one thing that was so cool about my dad was I could go and do anything that I wanted that he was doing. he was working all the time, but there was a 24/7 open invitation, board meetings, working at the office, any event, a Christmas party, like it didn't matter. He was working. He wasn't going to stop working, but I was allowed to come to anything. And I'm just like so grateful for those moments still, because it's been 20 years since I went to those kinds of things as well, and they still stand out to me as like the most impactful things of being in this industry were those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my father, who had passed a few years ago, used to say, and he loved being here. He was a gun enthusiast his whole life. He could sit down and talk about guns for hours and hours. He'd talk to you till you left, kind of guy. And he had this saying, and it would certainly make my high school English teacher cringe at the grammatical errors in it. But my father used to say, "Do good business and business will be good." And what he meant by that is treat people fair, treat them right, treat them the way you want to be treated, and it'll all come back to you the way it should. And we see that a lot. Just be nice to people. It's not hard to be nice.
Right.
It's treat them the way you want to be treated. We are very much a word of mouth business. Again, we're 1, 3, and 5 miles.
Yep.
So it's, how did you hear about our store? Oh, so-and-so told me, or so-and-so told me.
Yes.
And we can spend all this money on advertising, but by far the most I ever hear is, "Oh, I was referred by this person, or this person told me about your store, or I, read your online reviews," or, it's basically the word of mouth type stuff. And you get that, though, by being fair with people, because, we've all heard that saying that, if you tell 9 people, if they're all happy with you, no one's going to go tell anybody, but one person's mad, they tell the world.
Yeah. Totally.
So to have predominantly good reviews is very telling about any type company.
Totally.
And you just have to do that. So we work really hard at kind of that public relations side of just treat people fair. We don't always have to agree.
Right.
I may not give you what you want, or you may not want to pay what I'm asking, and that's okay. But we can still be civil about it.
Yeah. This is like such good business advice, but like raising, my daughter's 6, big Taylor Swift fan, talks about Karma all the time, because Karma's a Taylor Swift song and she's like all interested in it. It's like such a basic parenting business, easy to understand, easy to train, easy to build into your core values, especially in the pawn industry, is just treat people how you want to be treated. And it seems so basic and so simple, but in the industry, it goes a long way, and not everybody does it. So it can actually be something that is a competitive advantage, which is crazy, but true.
One of the things that we did before we opened this store, so we're talking 13 years ago, is on Fridays I would pick my kids up at school once we had decided to open this store, and we would go pawn shopping, and probably 9 out of 10 experiences once we got in the car was, okay, so that's not how you treat people.
Right.
So that's not how you do things. And an example would be, one of the things that we work on really hard here is if somebody walks in the front door, I expect someone to greet them within 2 or 3 steps.
Yeah.
Even if you're, I can be the loan counter helping somebody, and it's as simple as, "Hi, somebody will be right with you."
Right.
Just so they're recognized walking in the door.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in, one of these big corporate stores, and my son wanted to buy a reel, a fishing reel, and they had it in a jewelry showcase. And we stood there for 30 minutes. We clocked it on our watch, and no one even came and said hello, and we just left.
Yeah.
And we see that so many times at stores. It's almost like you're bothering people, when you go into their store, and I'm just like, I just don't get it. This is, we're in the money business and we're in the product business, but at the end of the day, we are in the people business.
People business. I know. I mean, I go into a lot of stores, and I don't get greeted more often than I do get greeted still. And that's like a known way of making your business better, is just saying hi.
Oh, absolutely. And there's, it's one of those things too that has many unintended consequences.
Yeah.
You want to reduce theft in your store? Say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
Thieves hate to be noticed.
Right.
So when you're talking to people
Totally.
and providing good service, you're not only making the people that are honest purchasers happy, the people who are
Totally.
maybe in your store for the wrong reason uncomfortable.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
Totally.
so it's nice that you get to do that.
So you guys, I know you don't always travel to conventions, but I know that your family is active in going to conventions. What are some of the different shows that you go to, and what's your favorite ones?
So I can count the number of shows that I've gone to since I started this business on one hand, and I don't have to
Yeah.
put a single finger up.
Yep.
I don't go to shows. My wife loves to go to shows. Both of my younger boys love to go to shows, and they go to alternating shot show. They go to the jewelry show in Las Vegas. They go oftentimes to the jewelry show in Atlanta, and they love going to all of those. I am very happy here in my store.
Yeah.
I love to be here. My wife has to drag me away for vacations. It's like I'm okay staying here.
I'll be there. I think that that's important because, a lot of people go to pawn shows, obviously, conventions and are part of associations, but it seems like talking about leaning into the niches that you're in and you guys do a really good job. It's SHOT Show, and that's where I get to see Suzanne every once in a while, is at SHOT Show, and then JCK and jewelry shows. And I think like expanding horizons into other shows where you specialize is really important.
Oh, I think so. It's the public knows
Yeah.
when you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's important to be knowledgeable about the things you want to be knowledgeable about, and
Yep.
kind of like I said earlier, you have to know what you don't know. One of the things that whenever we get somebody who's new and they're just learning, one of the first things I try to tell them is the most powerful phrase you have is, "I'm sorry, I don't know, but I can find out for you."
Yeah.
Because you don't know who you're talking to. You could have someone who comes in looking like they don't have two nickels to rub together, and they're the Rolex expert of North America.
Right.
And they start asking you a question, and you think you're just going to bluff your way through it, and all you've done is expose yourself as someone who's not knowledgeable.
Right.
And it looks terrible. All of a sudden, you're a con man, or you're dishonest, or you're this, versus, I don't know, but let me find out. People can respect that answer, but you start trying to, that old fake it till you make it. It doesn't work in the real business world.
Yeah, I'm smiling because obviously as we grow our team, right? And like I think about how robust Bravo is. Like there's a lot to say I don't know to. Like I give demos now of Bravo, and like I feel like 20% of the questions I just don't know the answers to anymore. It's like I actually don't know that. I got to go find out for you. And it's, so much easier to trust somebody that says I don't know than somebody that starts to go down a path, and at the first answer that the other person recognizes that you don't know what you're talking about, it's over. So totally agree with that.
Yeah, one of the things that we use as an example is once you set that tone for them,
Yeah.
all they start to hear is Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah.
Wah,
Yeah.
wah, 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 wah. You're not saying anything anymore. They're not hearing it.
And you can't get it back.
No, it's over.
Yeah.
It is. You can't unring that bell, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to people that are getting in the industry today?
When you say getting in the industry, are you talking about someone who's entry level getting in the industry, or someone who's trying to become
Whichever.
an owner of a store?
The audience of this is pretty broad. Sometimes it's people that are associates. Sometimes it's brand new business owners.
All right. Well, let's address both. If it was
Okay.
a brand new associate, man, open up your mind and just soak it in. There is so much knowledge
Yeah.
to be had in this business, and I don't care who you are and how long you've been in it. We don't have anywhere near the amount of knowledge that we should. I mean, I feel like I've been doing this my whole life, and I learn stuff every day. If you're not open to learning every day, go do something else.
Yeah.
Because this thing is ever changing, and there's more information constantly, and the amount of information that you can learn. Let customers talk. They love to tell you how smart they are. They love to. But listen, when it's someone who's new with our company and they're down there and we're busy and they're trying to show someone a gun and they don't have a lot to talk to, the number of older guys that come in this store who will tell you everything you ever wanted to know about that gun, because they like to share, they like to talk. Just listen. You will learn so much listening and being open to it.
Yep.
So that would be my biggest piece of advice for someone who's new to the industry. For someone who's looking to open their own store, I think the two biggest things that I would say to them is, number one, congratulations, because you should absolutely be spending your time and energy on your dream,
Yeah.
not somebody else's. Your dream. That's where you need to do it. And whatever it is you think you need as far as the amount of money to open up your store, yeah, just double it. You're wrong.
Double it.
Double it.
Yeah.
You're wrong. I thought we were so well positioned. I'm like, oh yeah, we are golden. Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
It's like a construction project.
Oh yeah, I'm like,
Just add 50% no matter what.
We got to sell some gold now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it is.
That's good advice, especially right now with loan demand so high.
Oh yeah, but whatever it takes, do it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely worth it. You know, we saved for a long, long time to be able to do this. I don't know if my wife told you, it probably took me 2.5 years to find a building that I was comfortable with, that I wanted, that I could put my businesses in, and I felt like we could be successful.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I can remember one of the things that John Thetford said a long, long time ago is he said, you can make a lot of mistakes, but don't mess up real estate.
Good advice.
You know, you have to do good on the real estate. It's important because once you're there, you're there.
You're there. Yep. Well, this is awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was nice to get to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for hanging out late.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.